See overnight lows tonight drop down to the lower 50s. For anything and everything going on around the Santa Clarita Valley, go to hometownstation.com. And while you're there, sign up for the newsletter Go Now each weekday and a special weekend edition on Sunday. hometownstation.com. And of course, check us out across all of our social media feeds at KHTS Radio.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
This is a Problem Solver Politics production and does not necessarily represent the views of KHTS Radio or its ownership.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up,
T-minus 1 minute,
live out the true meaning of its creed.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
T-minus 50 seconds.
I am paying for this microphone, Mr. Every dollar released from taxation
T-minus 40 seconds.
that is spent or invested will help create a new job.
Chivalry is dead, and women killed it.
T-minus 30 seconds.
They want to get at the table and start acting stupid. All you got to do is come back with, he's your president, he's your president.
T-minus 20 seconds.
I thought I was liberal until I moved out here. And then there's just like this psycho extra level.
10,
because they feel like
9,
the way they think everything
8,
should be
7,
is so right
6,
because they live near an ocean.
5, 4, 3,
2, 1, 0.
The word you want to put in front of it. Show for you today. We've got two really great guests, and man, oh man, I am outnumbered today. We are live in the studio with our near and dear friend Andrew Tabon, fresh off his victory lap from helping Katie Hill win the election. And we also got Mark Winger in the studio, one of the original gangsters of the Democrat Party here in Santa Clarita, who served, gosh, how long, Mark? Help me out here.
18 years.
18 years. I was going to say nearly 2 decades, so I wasn't too off. Okay, so 18 years as a superintendent of schools in the Newhall Unified School District. Both of these guys, I have zero hope of converting, but I find them to be very, very kind and wise gentlemen in their own right. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of, the elections. Last week we had Bill Miranda on the show, giving a little victory lap about talking a little bit about his election. Andrew, let me just introduce him a little bit for those that haven't seen him on our show before. Pretty much look up any organization having to do with the Democrats in the Santa Clarita Valley, and you are going to see Andrew Tabon either on the cover of their Facebook banner or on the website itself. It's actually quite impressive. He even has this great photo. I got to pull this up maybe in the second segment of some awesome white pants standing next to Gavin Newsom when he came here to endorse Katie Hill as well. That was pretty good. That was a bold statement, man. White pants in politics. So anyway, he's all over just anything having to do with the D behind the politician's name in Santa Clarita. And he gets to kind of run a little bit of a victory lap here. I actually want to start out with you. Is just, I was talking on my show leading up to this. Ideologies of the campaign aside, which we can totally mincemeat later. Right. The Christy Smith Katie Hill campaign was kind of a thing of political beauty, in the sense of, I would often talk on my show. I'd make this joke that the most private, volunteer-based, capitalist campaign right now in the sphere is the combination of the efforts of Katie Hill and Christy Smith. Yeah. If there were a, I guess you would say, kind of institutionalized, depending upon kind of, no, I don't want to say cronyism, but like the support of the existing machine election out there, and unfortunately it was a Steve Knight one, right? Yeah. So I said, the roles have been switched in the elections right now. You know what I'm saying? The ones that are running circles around these people here are all the Christy Smith and Katie Hill people. You know what I'm saying? So I am intrigued. As an outsider looking in, you could sense the energy. You totally knew something big was happening. But I love hearing the nuts and bolts of elections. You guys did it. Take your little victory lap. You can give credit to everybody else you want to over the airwaves. But tell me, I'm just so curious to hear, and I'm sure our listeners are, what do you think was your strengths that you capitalized on? Was there anything where you thought, well, I've never seen this work before, but it worked? And what do you think you attribute the majority of your success to?
Oh, wow, that's a loaded question.
Oh, and by the way, the first round is always really nice.
Okay.
The first round's really nice. The second one, I ask you all the tough, frank, and direct questions. And the third one, we kiss and make up. So right now, just enjoy yourselves.
Oh, great.
You know what I'm saying? And it's your chance.
Andrew knows a whole lot more about the nuts and bolts than I do.
Yeah, so hit us.
I had the privilege of working on the Christy Smith for State Assembly campaign, but speaking today, I'm going to be pretty much speaking as I'm the vice president of the Democratic Alliance for Action, so I'm kind of going to give you an aspect of that.
Cool.
So I guess kind of what was a little different about this time was, 2016 had a lot to do with it. The president and a lot of more people are energized, and I think kind of what was different when you're looking at these campaigns, not only were these two, this district won by Hillary Clinton with plus 7 points, but also I think what you were seeing a little bit different was people were politically waking up, and I think people were just very comfortable. In this district in the United States, and younger people started getting engaged.
You mean comfortable pre this election cycle and kind of pre 2016? You think?
Yeah, because a lot of people, it was kind of a joke. Donald Trump isn't going to win. Oh, who would ever do that? And and then he did win, and I think people were like, okay, well, let's see how this goes. Maybe it's not so bad, and some people don't think it's bad. Some people think it's horrible, and some people are like, it's just the same old crazy politics that always happen in D.C.
By the way, feel free to rip into him if you want to, because I'm dealing with Mark Murphy every Sunday. I can't do as worth as him.
I'm not a fan, I'll just say it. But I think what was so interesting about this is a lot of people were what seemed to be exhausting about this administration and about a lot of government was it looked like it did not matter in regards to the people anymore. It became... people say it's, the wealthy class are ruling the country, or my representative isn't listening to me. Steve Knight himself, I remember when I was alone one time and I went to go knock on the office to hear back on some feedback, and the door is locked, and I had somebody else answer it, ask me what I'm looking for, I stated what I'm looking for, and then they closed the door and then gave me a piece of paper on the way out. And these are people who are elected officials. It's their job to hear from the people. And they can do all of this, they can be crazy and violent. Well, I was in a lot of those outdoor protests. And, one of the really good things about Santa Clarita is it's a very safe city, and there aren't many violent acts that go on here. So it was kind of insane to see it. So I think one of the things that both Christy Smith and Katie Hill had in this election was they really were running for the people and to represent the people. Whether you agree with them or not, they've been pretty open but they're about their ideas, but they're more than willing to hear from their constituents and have input from them, which I think is one of the most important things about your government officials.
Well, I need to add something to that, because I don't think it was Donald Trump who drove this election. I think it was values and things people wanted to see and things we believed in that brought people out, because it was obvious that a lot of those were threatened. Yeah. And the other factor is Santa Clarita and the 38th and the 25th is changing. It's changing big time. I looked this up before I came, Cardon. When I was superintendent of schools, I arrived in 1998. Newhall School District was...
Hey, for the record, you don't look it.
Thank you. Thank you. After 18 years, for sure. Newhall School District was 68% white in 1998, and it was 26% Hispanic. When I left Newhall School District, it's now 33% white, 68 to 33% white, 47% Hispanic, and then the rest are different mixtures and minorities. We saw it coming in 1998. I used to share that data with anybody who would listen, because that was coming. That was the wave. If you want to talk about wave, it's a demographic wave that was coming. So it changed in diversity. It changed in registration. And Donald Trump was just the icing on the cake that brought people out. Boomers like me, who lived through the Vietnam era and have strong feelings from those dates. As I've been here 43 years. As
All right.
a Democrat, I've been here 43 years as a Democrat. I've been waiting for this day.
Yeah.
But it wasn't only because of Donald Trump. That certainly is a big driver.
Yeah.
But it was because these districts had changed, and I don't think our representatives were looking. I don't think the Republican Party was looking. They were holding on to power, but they weren't seeing what was coming.
Okay, interesting. Now, when you say there's a lot that I agree with you, we're going to have some fun
Well,
pushback
you can't
when I
deny
came
my
back to the
demographic data.
No.
Okay.
But also, I resent so wholeheartedly identity politics, and I've also seen that.
I'm not talking about
fail so
identity
often.
politics. I'm saying diversity, and things have changed in the Santa Clarita Valley. I didn't say identity politics. I'm just saying it's changed a lot, and that came along with voter registration changes.
No, I completely understand that you kind of have to approach with a scalpel, excising out the terminologies and the semantics of everything. And yes, demographically, there's no the growth here the population has changed.
It's gotten younger.
What'd you say?
It's gotten younger. It's just really changed. It's changed a lot.
Yeah. So I mean, there's been obviously massive demographic shifts. Everything from the school data to the average age of our voters to the average age of our retirees, so on and so forth. I totally get that. What do you think? Because I've got my own theories, and right now I am in all of these talks with different leadership, and last show was full of all kinds of criticisms of things that I definitely think the local party needs to improve on. What do you think is the number one thing you were able to exploit in order to, because now it's at 6%, 538,
6.4.
Yeah, 538 had you at best 1.5. Okay, so I take away some different lessons than you guys do from this election, and we'll get to those in the second block, I guess. But before you can get to those, I'm curious. From your end, you're going up against Dante Acosta. You're thinking, okay, he only has a half point. I think going into the election, he was a half-point registration advantage. Am I correct?
Yep,
It was pretty even.
Yeah,
but that big independent window was the big difference.
Yeah, well, and then independence, though, is everybody worries about that, and they say, like, oh, Republicans are becoming a third party. I'm like, well, that's because, you're worried about having a brick thrown through your window if you have a Republican sign in your front yard.
Everyone says that, but actually, my house was the only one I know that got vandalized. And my car was destroyed. I mean,
well, this is coming from the week of me having a brick thrown in my window.
2 years ago, my wife's bumper was keyed because she had a bumper sticker on.
Yeah, my whole entire street was keyed during the Prop 8 thing, and I think all of us have a story. And by the way, I think the vast majority of those things, I actually don't think are real political acts. Like you, I have more faith in my fellow Santa Claritans. I think there's just vandals out there that look for an excuse. You know what I'm saying? And that a lot of that's just going to happen.
But I too, those are incidental, small.
Yes, I don't think it's a widespread problem. I mean, it's just like voter fraud. It exists, but I don't think it's widespread, and I don't think it.
Andrew, question, because I think one of the elements here was millennial voters.
Okay.
Now I have two sons who are millennial voters, so I know how they voted. But do you think that was?
Well, also, honestly, Mark, do you think anybody's going to escape your house not being a Democrat?
Two highly educated college graduates can make up their own mind.
I'm highly educated college grad.
So what do you think? Do you think millennial voters actually did come out more than what was expected in this election?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the elements.
I think
well, you can't say think. It was. Look, it was the most highly attended midterm in American history.
Yeah, but you know what?
Yeah, but I'd like to see that breakdown. I'm sorry.
No. I think it actually has a lot to do with because so many people talk so much crud about millennials, but we're the biggest gap, age group that's about to take over. These are people that a lot of people talk crud about. And you can open any article. CNN says we're great, we're bad. Fox News says we're horrible psycho-liberals. The reality is we're
leftist. Liberals are good people. Leftists are bad.
Pardon.
No, I'm just kidding.
And so, this is a group that I think what it is there's a difference in the thought process. There's been a lot of studies showing, yes, millennials are more left-leaning or more moderate, or they don't even like identifying with politics. But there's a different thought process going on with millennials, and I think they're engaging more in new technology that's developing, different ways to do things out here, and that definitely has also a game change in politics. You even see there's the what do they call them? The far left of different groups, and there's just a bunch of different mentalities. But I do think in this particular election,
so how are you able to harness that?
Acceptance of diversity. I think is one of the other key issues about millennials. Yeah, much more than my generation.
Yeah, we don't really care about too much of what you do, who you are. It's
yeah.
just.
I'm a millennial
I'm just
myself,
saying,
technically.
So, Cardon, I'm just saying Andrew led with Trump, but I think all those elements came to bear on these two elections.
Yes, no, I know it's a very multifaceted thing, because if it weren't a multifaceted thing, it wouldn't have happened the way it happened. So what of all of those aspects were the thing that you think you harnessed the most effectively that pushed you guys over? Because if this were going to be just like a traditional election where everybody behaved they were supposed to behave, it would have been eked out at 1 to 1.5%. You know, because all the data showed a within margin of error. We're going to be down to 5,000 vote counts here. Okay,
like
but it didn't. I mean, not quite landslide. You have to hit 10% in my mind to hit landslide. But it was enough of a margin where it's like, okay, this is a spanking. Not a shellacking. There's a win. There's like an Al Franken win by 163 votes that needs to be fought in court for like 4 months. Then there's a regular win, which to me is within 3 or 4%. There's a spanking, which was I think the 6%. I think we've gotten there from 6%. And then once you're beyond 10, it's a shellacking. All right. So this was a spanking, if you will. And by the way, before you continue, I do have to put a plug in for I agree with the millennial thing. I hate this because I'm trying to hire millennials, and I look at my own generation, and there's ways that we suck so badly. But there's ways that we're very, very amazing. And I'm not sure what cancels what out and where we are in the net quite yet. I think only history will tell. But Rasmussen poll just did Pew Research just did this really interesting thing last year where they asked they asked New York Times readers to develop a name for the next generation because they're cutting off at, I think it's like 2002, the millennials from 1982 to 2002, they're trying to say, and they want to develop a new name. And so they're taking all these different names about what they want to call them, the I generation, the whatever. Well, one of the girls wrote in, my favorite answer was, I just want them to call us the scapegoat generation so that when everybody's trying to blame us for all their problems like they do the young generation, they can at least just say it while they're blaming us. If it weren't for the scapegoat generation, you know what I'm saying?
I agree with her.
So anyway, keep going. Say what you're saying.
What was the question?
You were asked, what do you think is the number one thing you exploited to win? Because if everybody would have behaved predictably, this would have been a 1% win. But it was a 6% win by tens of thousands of votes.
Don't you prefer the word mobilize instead of exploit?
Yeah, I was going to say. I don't think
a little value laden.
I don't think we.
No, it's a weakness that you exploit. This is warfare, man. This is warfare.
Yeah, I don't think we exploited. I think we mobilized people, but also I think. I'm going to go back to, you know what, I got to work closely with these two incredible candidates, and I obviously did not get to work with current Assembly Member Acosta and Congressional Representative Knight. But the thing is, these two women, what I saw which was incredible about them is they had their roots in Santa Clarita or in our district. And they cared about the issues, they knew about the issues, and they're willing to learn what the people care about. When you have your representatives who shut you out of the door, or when you go to a coffee meet and greet and they refuse to answer your question, it already sets an expectation that you're like, okay, well, you're not going to be working with me on this. You're going to be working on whatever the top dog tells you. This was a bottom-up campaign, campaigns, which I think is so interesting. A lot of people got engaged on their own time. Yes, of course, people go out there and I know the Democratic Alliance for Action, we try to recruit people. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people saw problems in the area. Now, are any electeds going to solve them in one term? I don't know. But I think this had a lot to do with people wanting to be heard, and they're just not feeling that. I know with my current electeds, I definitely was not. Mm-hmm. I'm sure a few others are, but
I got to add though, I had the same kind of relationship.
Yeah,
I work with Chrissy as a school board member. She's a wonderful, bright, articulate school board member. That's why I got behind her from the beginning. As soon as she said she wanted to do this, there was no question in my mind about the quality of candidate. I didn't know Katie Hill at all, but I did have an ongoing conversation with Congressman Knight about gun control. This came after the shootings at school, which were pretty important to me, as I was trying to protect 7,000 kids and 650 employees and felt that was in my responsibility. I ended up having to say to him, this is mostly by text, I'm sorry, Steve. I just need a congressman who does something about this issue, and you're just not the person. That's what I need. There's one issue. There's others too, but that's where I got to with him. There was not a crack in that door. We talk about bump stocks, the lowest hanging fruit after Las Vegas. He assured me it was going to be taken care of by the ATM. I said, the ATM says they can't do that. It has to be legislation.
You mean the ATF?
ATF, I'm sorry.
Okay, so
ATF.
I was going to say, crap, is there another bureaucracy I don't know about?
We should talk about money in politics too, but ATF. But he said...
Oh, you guys don't want to talk about money in politics right now, not after this campaign.
ATF will do it. Never did it. Always said they couldn't do it. Hasn't been done today. Just go and Google bump stocks. I got to the bottom. I got to the end of that conversation with him. My representative.
All right, cool. Well, here, check this out. We're going to have to take a little bit of a break here. I'm loving hearing all of this. I'm digesting it. I'm totally thinking, okay, well, if I were a Democrat in the Santa Clarita Valley, I could totally see that being an absolute frustration. We're going to come back on the other side of this break, and I got a couple of questions, some fears of mine to be addressed, because now we are the ones that are the Hamilton cast, trying to ask Pence what he's going to do with us. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to talk about that on the other side of the break. You are in the studio live. This Problem Solver Politics with, I almost literally called you Andrew Winger. We're with Andrew Tabon and Mark Winger in the studios. It is 7:26.
Every year, thousands of local children, teens, and adults receive treatment at the Child and Family Center for depression, anger, anxiety, abuse, thoughts of suicide, and drug and alcohol addictions. Our professional staff provides outpatient services at office locations, in the home, the community, and on many elementary, junior, and high school campuses throughout our valley. If you need help, contact Child and Family Center at 259-9439 or childfamilycenter.org. Improving lives, one family at a time.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
This Christmas, join us for the ultimate holiday concert, A Very Merry Christmas with the Letterman, Sunday, December 9th, 5 p.m. at the Santa Clarita Performing Arts Center. The legendary Letterman here in Santa Clarita singing your favorite holiday classics. Joining them is Santa Clarita's singing sensation, Savannah Burrows, along with our very own West Ranch High School choir. You'll also hear the Letterman perform their string of top 10 hits. A Very Merry Christmas with the Letterman.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
The Letterman, Savannah Burrows, and West Ranch Choir, Sunday, December 9th. For tickets, visit canyonspack.com.
Merry Christmas.
Mission Valley Bank is a commercial bank in the Santa Clarita Valley that really puts the community into community banking.
At Mission Valley Bank, we strive to be a trusted advisor to our clients, and that means being an integral part of the communities we serve. We started the Give Where You Live program to help bring awareness to our nonprofit partners. We're more than just a local business bank. In fact, we're a full-service, independent commercial bank that is locally owned, community-minded, and relationship-driven. I'm Tamara Gurney, President and CEO of Mission Valley Bank, and I invite you to experience the Mission Valley Bank difference, where your success is our mission. We want to be your most valued bank.
Mission Valley Bank has been named Most Trusted Advisor Business Banker by the San Fernando Valley Business Journal 5 years in a row, and received the Business Leadership Award by the Santa Clarita Valley Chamber of Commerce, Valley Industry Association, and SCV Economic Development Corporation. Visit them at their Center Point branch location or at missionvalleybank.com. Member FDIC.
Now FM 98.1 FM and AM 1220. Your hometown station.
All right, welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. We are live in the KHTS studio talking with Mark Winger, 18-year veteran, superintendent of schools who retired a couple years ago, but one of the original gangsters of the Democrat Party here in Santa Clarita, and Andrew Tabon. Once upon a time, he ran for city council. Since then, he's basically been school board, sorry. He's been a mega operative on behalf of the Democrats here in the Santa Clarita Valley, and he's running a little bit of a victory lap this week. after it's official that he helped push Christy Smith over the edge in his white pants. You know what I'm saying? I think that should become a trademark.
Not over the edge, over the line.
Over the line. You're right. No, push over the edge. Yeah. She's going to call in twitching. Like, I can't do it anymore. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so I have this joke that in the first round, we all play nice, get to know each other, talk about the warm, fuzzy stuff. Second round is a lot more frank and direct questions. And then the third round, we all kiss and make up and we have fun. Just so our listening audience knows, the reason why I invited Andrew Tabon on our show and Mark Winger is because I very much deeply respect both these men, and they fulfill my only 3 rules of politics. First is humanity over politics. If you can't see the humanity first before the political advantage, that's just a recipe for dictatorship and disaster. Second is no hypocrisy. I love the phrase, you got to keep your yard clean before you can judge your neighbor's yard. You know what I'm saying? So if you can keep your party clear of its own worst elements, I do believe that enough of the Venn diagram of all of our values in America coincide enough that it shouldn't, I'm not saying it doesn't, but it shouldn't matter the party as much as the person, and I very much value the opinions of these people. Mayor Koch, and I'm probably botching this pronunciation because I know it's Koch in German.
No, it's Koch there, though.
It's Koch there, yeah, okay. Mayor Koch, love him or hate him. I know some people hate him. Some people love him in New York, but I lived in New York. He had one of my favorite political phrases of all time. Was in a speech once. He told a bunch of people, he said, you know, if you agree with me on 7 out of 8 things on my platform, come to the polls on election day, vote for me, and let's make this city better together. If you believe with me on 8 out of 8 things, check yourself into a mental institution. You need help, right? You know, so I really do believe out of the clamor of many voices, the truth will be established, as Thomas Jefferson said. So I trust these dudes to come in here because I do have some concerns about this new flip, because here's the thing. We did it cold turkey. We did it cold turkey. We went from being Republican to being blue, big time. Orange County went from 2 out of 7 seats being Democrat to being pure blue. So we just did a cold turkey switch on leadership, and elections do matter. Okay, so oftentimes I think people saying, "Oh, their fears about XYZ party," I think is just hype and used as a battle axe to try and sensationalize an argument. But I want to bring you guys in here to address what are probably, we won't have time to get to my top 5, but I'll try and get to 2 or 3 before we have an interesting conversation about finance and politics. 3 biggest fears. Since I value you guys' opinions as rational men, you know what I'm saying, who are deeply familiar with the inner workings of your party.
Andrew's deeply familiar. I'm not.
Andrew, no, come on. You've been a Democrat
Andrew's
for 40
pretty
years.
clueless in general. I don't know.
Come on, man. So, my first thing is I always value the adjectives before a person's name, before the letter after them. So I trust when you say, okay, Christy Smith, awesome. She's articulate, she's kind, she's smart. I completely get your frustration because I can see how in a lot of the California Republican Party since Donald Trump was elected, there has been such a gridlock with protesters. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Steve Knight had to stop going to his office because of the sit-ins. He had his window shot through twice. You know what I'm saying? I can see why an overwhelming fear of somebody's face you don't recognize on your team, okay, can become something that makes it so you're handed a piece of paper through a door. I don't see that. I don't interpret it the way you do of like, oh, I'm getting shut out by my elected official. I see that as somebody operating out of fear instead of faith. And there's only 2 things you can operate out of, fear or faith. So I have enough faith in you guys that I will hopefully be able to address some of these concerns. So the first one is, I know the Democrats were pushing huge medical I don't want to say medical like it's just one word. That was totally grammatically incorrect, but medical services, medical care, pre-existing conditions, whatever you want to call it. And there's this infamous picture of Donald Trump with about 25 to 30 different Republicans in front of the White House the day that they voted to repeal Obamacare. And about 80% of them have been voted out of office now, right? And I think that was a huge part of this election. Every single talking head and every single talking point always had to do with medical care. And the Democrats definitely market themselves as the party of compassion, the party of, protecting your pre-existing conditions. And to a certain extent, I'm okay with pre-existing conditions. I'm okay with telling large corporations that, hey, if you're going to get rich in the auto insurance business, you got to give at least $250,000 coverage here, at least $5,000 coverage here, and these are the basic regulations. I'm okay with telling insurance companies, hey, if you're going to get rich in the business of providing medical insurance, you can't let little Timmy, you know what I'm saying, die, all right, because of a pre-existing condition not cover him. So I get why that was a deep thing. This is my fear, and now we're going to talk about the fears. We're just sending Christy Smith to go vote on Medi-Cal. When my daughter was diagnosed with cancer at 15 months old, okay, this is not at all to besmirch the wonderful people at the hospital. In fact, I'm not even going to mention the hospital because I have so much respect for it. And the people were nothing but helpful in trying to get around this system, but they're forced to operate within the lines that the legislature provides for them. I was told you need to give us $30,000 or else we have to stabilize your daughter and send her to county. So I give her $30,000. I didn't even have that credit limit on my credit card. 2 days later, after the emergency surgery, they say this is going to be a difficult recovery. I'm sorry, but we need another $30,000 or we stabilize your daughter and send her to county. And I said, okay, hold on a second. I've already given you $30,000 within 48 hours of showing up here. I know for a fact nobody else has. And even if I had the best insurance in the world, it'd take 90 days. You know what I'm saying? And it's a good thing I spoke Spanish so I could get here even. You know what I'm saying? Because if I were an English speaker, I wouldn't even be able to find the admissions office. And she said, okay, we're going to work with you. We're going to try this out. And I said, how are they paying for it? And she said, they get Medi-Cal. And I say, okay, well, what's the cutoff of Medi-Cal, what Christy Smith's going to be voting on here pretty soon? She said, oh, $34,000. But if you're illegal, you get it free. And on the wall, there's this. I have a picture of it. I see Mark looking at me dubiously, but I've got photographic evidence of this, and I've lived it. On the wall, there's this paper that says, here's the booklet of your rights as an illegal immigrant. This will not affect your INS status. This will not affect your naturalization status. Your services here are free. Talk to this person. And it had the name of the person that will remain nameless and their phone number. Loaded up with all those official statements that you have to have from Medi-Cal on the wall. And I talked to this woman, and I don't want some poor 15-month-old of an illegal immigrant turned away either. I don't want that. But if you're going to tell me that there is going to have to be a decision made about who gets something and who doesn't, that kind of Medi-Cal system is an unintended consequence, I get it, of trying to provide for illegal immigrants, because we've developed this system where both political parties are not motivated to fix it. Now all of a sudden we've got 30 million of them here. And I get that we're trying to do something. But when you send a citizen away to fend for the scraps at county while an illegal gets it for free, where is the compassion in that? Where is everything that the Democrat Party says it will fight for? And this is my frustration. I see, yes, I want pre-existing condition coverage. I see all your posters around town that say healthcare is a human right. And to a certain extent, I agree with that. But I also think water is basically a human right now, okay? But our society has figured out a public-private partnership way to provide water so cheaply that everybody can just afford it, so much so that we're not fighting over it like we are healthcare. But it seems to me that these slogans of healthcare is a human right end up becoming, in the heavily blue states like ours, healthcare is a human right, but for the people and the demographics that look like they will quickly become Democrat votes. That was a verbose question, and I understand it's a little bit loaded, but the irony of that to me is racism that benefits a political, not racism, but it seems demographics that look like they'll vote Democrat very quickly are getting preferential treatment over a citizen whose family's been here for 250 years. So my fear is that gets entrenched more. Your response to that?
Me first, or
you go first. Well, actually, either one of you. What do you think about that?
Well, first I want to say I would have to really study what you're saying, because I don't accept what you said just out of the box. you're a nice guy, and I believe you saw that
Okay.
sign. But I'd have to understand the issue better. And I'm not sure after having understood it, I would perhaps interpret it the same way you did.
They don't have a
but
they don't
short
have
of
a
that-
tax return, and
but
everything's based off tax returns, and there's provisions within Medi-Cal that illegal
I don't want to
immigrants
argue
get
it,
for free.
really. I'd have
Yeah.
to find out a whole lot about it. But
Okay.
let me
That's
say,
fair.
But let me say what I know about Christie. Okay, what I think Christie would do is take that thing apart and really see if she believed that was a valid argument, and if there were fixes in it, and if there were bipartisan. Actually, in Sacramento it doesn't matter anymore, but. You know, hopefully it would be a bipartisan approach to, well, how can we remedy this in some way, or come in from the other side? Well, that's Medicaid, Medi-Cal, but what about affordable care and the Affordable Care Act? And you know, there have been lots of studies that when you take ACA or Obamacare out of the title, that Americans say this is what I want in my health care.
Yeah,
and
but
it's
there's
a whole
also
bunch of a whole bunch of things, and it all looks like the ACA. So somehow, if there's at least that road for you, then that needs to be provided. If this is another road for poorer people, that needs to be provided.
Okay,
but it
so
has to be resolved, is my point. And I believe Christie would sit down and really take that thing apart and figure out how do we get there.
Okay, cool. So I completely get that. My only pushback on that generally is, why do I have to be stuck in, for the first time in Americans' history, a situation where I am beholden to, all of a sudden, a government official for my daughter's health care? See, now you say Christy Smith is great, and personally, I bet you she is. I know tons of her friends in this valley, and I've bumped into her in X, Y, or Z different educational thing for 20 years myself too, okay? Never had a deep-rooted political conversation with her, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, I believe you because I trust you that she is great. But what about the district where they're not? That person's screwed, okay? And why am I in a position where all of a sudden government controls it? I have a deep distrust because of many dealings with very poor government bureaucracies. I've had great government bureaucracies I've dealt with that have impressed me. I've had good officials like you that have impressed me.
Being a bureaucrat, I have to say I believe in government, but the issue that I think you're saying is, here's a problem. We need to work the problem. I'm not denying that you had that experience. It's a problem. It's a huge problem. And I don't mind that the government might say, well, here's the program that we're going to put the structure around, if the program works. I don't have a problem with that. We have lots of government programs, and I think a lot of them, most of them are necessary and should be done right. Now, the should be done right part is where, obviously, it's fallen apart. But if you can't get together at, not in the California level necessarily, but at the national level, if you can't get together and resolve it, because that hasn't been happening, then you're going to just continue to have those stories. And what I'm looking for, and I think both these electeds are going to go there, is how do we solve these problems? And it's got to be done across the board, across the aisle. And you know, I believe that what happened in the Congress, in the House of Representatives, is checks and balances. Checks and balances have finally come back to the national government, and that's necessary to resolve problems like you're talking about.
Yeah, now, and a lot of people were like disappointed, like, oh, we lost the House, or oh, this or that. And I just thought in my mind, obviously you want your party to be in power and, you know, control and everything like that, because there's an advantage, a perceived advantage, I think. But I'm actually not a huge, I love split government. Like, I love it. And I think the proof of that,
it's the embodiment of the Constitution.
the proof of that is the stock market soared. Everybody before the election said, oh, look, the stock market's going down. You watch all the CNN and the super leftist talking heads saying, oh, see, this is a stock market referendum on Trump. And I'm like, no, it's not. You guys don't understand the investment class. The investment class is sitting around thinking, I am divesting from as much as I can before elections to see what the heck happens. And when they announce split government, investors love gridlock, because gridlock gives us predictability within certain markets, so we at least know what the heck is going to happen to our money over the next 2 to 4 years, all right? So investors love gridlock to a certain extent. I do, because crazy stuff like cramming down on the left, for example, Obamacare, on the right, this horrible spending bill that Trump passed when it was pure Republican rule. You know what I'm saying? Single party rule is not the greatest thing America has ever invented, okay? Which gets in my second fear that you guys can address here. All the time, Republicans, I've always been a registered independent. I registered for the first time as a Republican to vote for Donald Trump because I knew he's the only person that could have the spine to defeat Hillary Clinton. But constantly I feel like I'm defending the Republican Party more than the Democrat Party because we live here in California. But I love multiple parties. In fact, I wish there were more. I wish the Libertarian Party was a lot stronger, more robust. I wish the crazy people over in the who are the people that don't take corporate donations? Jill Stein was
Green
the
Party?
the Green Party. I wish the Green Party was killing it. I wish we had like 5 parties like we did back when the Whigs and the Know Nothings were still a viable party in the 1800s. All right. When you take a step back and you don't look at any 4-year election or any candidate or any piece of legislation, and the hot button topics it is, and you kind of look from space, you start noticing some things. Single party rule is wildly detrimental in the United States of America. And there has never been a municipality, be it a state or an individual city, that has fallen into single party rule for more than 40 years that has not ended in bankruptcy and a murder rate that rivals Mexico. I mean, for as much as Republicans are constantly called science deniers and stuff like that, there are measurable quantifiers out there and overwhelming statistics that show cities that have fallen to single party rule, especially those of single party rule by Democrats, end up bankrupt, literally killing each other. So I look at California now, and since 1971, Democrats have run the state Senate, okay? And by the way, this is not to, if any listeners are out there, this is not at all to defend Democrats. I want a very healthy, robust, awesome Democrat Party, because the exact same thing happens in Texas with Republicans. You can't buy a Tesla down there because they've gerrymandered all of the safety laws and the dealership laws, so you can't buy electric vehicles out there to protect the oil lobby. All right, so this problem goes both ways. Okay, but I look at this, and since 1971, Democrats have had a supermajority, not a supermajority, but have a majority in our lower seat, the assembly, and since the 1993. They've controlled, except for one time, a near supermajority of the higher house, the state Senate. So the clock started ticking somewhere in the 70s or 80s, which means it's going to mature in the 20s. How are we not going to become that statistic? Because I see us chasing away business like Detroit did. I see us hemorrhaging retirees like Baltimore did, like all the northeastern states did, and you can blame it on the Sun Belt and the weather and the this and that. But our tax policies, our Medi-Cal policies, our everything policies that these people vote on seem to be putting us on track to become Detroit quickly. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Where did I go wrong? Okay, Mark's been totally dying to jump in. Hit me.
So
I'll let Andrew, because I answered last time.
So there's, oh my gosh. That's like a big question. I think one of the most interesting things about California is even as a Democratic state, you have a lot of different diverse Democrats and different areas. And one of the good things about California is you have your local governments, you have higher offices, we have our counties. And do we want to? No. Okay.
Oh yeah. Actually. Yeah. We do have to go to a commercial break. I'm actually going to cut us to a commercial break really, really fast because I want to get Andrew's answer. He's a smart guy, and I'm going to give him a second to think here. But we're just going to cut to a commercial break really fast, and then we're going to come back and get the answer. It is 7:48.
KHTS strives to give the Santa Clarita Valley all the information they need. And when our computers aren't working the way they should, we call Resurgence, your true source for IT. Resurgence provides outstanding customer service while also providing the highest technical ability. They strive to do what is best to improve and protect your business. For more information on Resurgence, call 349-4114 or go to resurgenceit.com.
If you'd like to take your business up a notch, take a look at Elite Magazine.
Linda and Mo Hafizi, owners of our Valley's 2 leading magazines, the Magazine of Santa Clarita and Elite.
I'm so proud of Elite. It allows your advertisement to stand out. We distribute Elite to 50,000 homes and businesses. You'll find us in 1,900 local hotel rooms.
Discover how Elite Magazine can help your business. Call 294-4444.
Superior quality is second nature to us. Just ask our advertisers.
Your hometown station.
KHTS AM 1220
and the new 98.1 FM.
are back at Problem Solver Politics. We're live in the KHTS studio with Mark Winger and Andrew Tabon. I'd ask a very verbose question basically about how are we not going to turn into the city of Detroit, because it seems like we are going the way of Buenos Aires in the 60s, Detroit in the 70s, Baltimore in the 80s, and he's going to come back with his rebuttal. Andrew, the floor is yours.
You're wrong. That's my
wrong.
You're wrong.
You're just wrong. No, I think so. What I was saying before was, I think just the Democrats in California itself, we're a very diverse state, and I think people don't realize that. I mean, culturally diverse, ethnically diverse, religiously. I mean, we are one amazing state, which is why I love California. But that also makes our Democratic Party different. Northern California Democrats are going to be different than Southern California Democrats, and Santa Clarita Democrats are going to be different than Bakersfield Democrats. So I think that in its own sense keeps its own check and balance, but also your local governments, for example. I mean, you said one-party rule. I mean, Santa Clarita had been under one-party rule for
40 years.
Yeah, 40 years. And
more
see,
than that.
we just saved you from collapsing, so you're welcome. The Democrats came and saved the day.
Well, it doesn't happen to single-party rule Democrat places. That's not to say single-party rule on Republicans is great. It is frustrating as heck being in those municipalities sometimes because of the absolute gridlock and laziness. Like, if Republicans are guilty of anything, they're guilty of what they've been doing here, which is just coasting, accepting the norm, even though the world changes around them. So it's not to defend them.
But I think that's what's interesting. I don't think California is on a verge of collapse. I mean, if you see, we're what now, the 5th largest economy in the world, and I mean we have a lot of freaking people over here in California. It's
and I don't see. I'm a retiree.
Yeah.
Retirees move. I get that, but I don't see a mass exodus of retirees.
Well, we're losing
and I was going to mention
we're
the
losing
economy.
45,000 residents a month.
But people move.
And this I get that, but don't dismiss this, because the exit surveys that you're able to pull off with sample sizes that are a lot better and more predictable than our political sample sizes of 700, 800 definitely credit the advantages, especially in the tax sector, of all these other places.
And what I say to those people is, good, you made a good decision for yourself. Personally, I'm staying in California. I'm a retiree. I pay those taxes. My taxes, by the way, will be going up this fiscal year, according to my accountant, thanks to the federal government. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah,
we have In and Out.
Well, yeah, we got In and Out.
We have the 5th largest economy.
Hey, your guy wanted to boycott it.
Yeah, I know.
You wanted to boycott it.
So I'm just saying, California's a great place to live. You make a decision based on all kinds of reasons. You might want to move out. Great, move out. It's right for you. I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
And
I think it's a great state.
They've also said that, we have mass exits. We have a lot of people leaving. And I want to point out, California has one of the largest populations in the entire country. So, granted,
5th largest population in the most populous state.
Most populous state.
Most populous state.
And
so, of course, the numbers.
We're going to have a much increased number in everything. I mean, we're going to have an increased number in wealthiest people, in highest in poverty, highest in homelessness. Santa Clarita has a lot of nonprofits. I mean, California has so many people that we're going to be number one in a lot of things.
And just one other thing. Much like yourself, Cardon. A lot of my good friends in Santa Clarita Valley are business people, developers, and they say the kind of things you say.
Are you suggesting that as a Democrat you have friends with very large, wealthy developers that can get big donations? I'm totally just kidding.
Because we did a lot of good things together. But they say the same things you say: regulation, taxes, all those things. They're still here. They're still making money. They're not going anywhere. To me, that says, okay, you can complain about all those things, but the real truth is you're here. You like In and Out.
Now, you like In and Out. Now, I totally get that. However, I'm coming at this. I have a very scientific mind in the sense that I love studying. My profession, for many years, I was a pest control operator, and what you learn from the world of biology, which is basically what pest control is amazing. And the truth is, as bacteria grows in a petri dish, especially in exponential growth, which is what most population growth is, what most political growth is, what most stress in your body growth is. When things grow exponentially, that tipping point going from 50 to 51%, where something goes from being viable to all of a sudden being septic and toxic, if a bacteria that doubles its population once every minute starts in a vial, okay, you have to think that as it doubles, that petri dish is only 1 minute away at any given time from going toxic and septic. So you just have to you just have to manage your levels just to make sure that your ecosystem doesn't spoil because those levels matter. So yes, to a certain extent, I think a lot of these people that moan and groan and stuff like that about taxes and regulations, there's a valid point to saying, okay, then why are you here? However, at the same time, you can't look at our system right now and the 54.3% tax rate that is upon people that make over levels as low as $127 to $250,000 per year, and not say that that is not a massive driving factor that is negatively impacting us. Because I grew up in a California that didn't have that insane tax system, and I grew up with the great old Hawaiian guy that taught me to teach the ukulele 2 doors down, the great old machinist from Northrop Grumman that taught me metal shop merit badge stuff. You know what I'm saying? And as we lose that demographic, I feel our society suffers. I mean, that's just my opinion. But anyway, let's talk about the tax year because we only got 2 minutes left. My last concern here is my taxes in my business, for example. When our state was broke, the state assembly voted to up us from a $1 million bond to a $3 million bond. Oh, instead of having to carry 5%, you got to carry 8%. My personal business has actually grown by sometimes small margins of 5%, sometimes large versions of 20%. But I actually have watched my paychecks some years actually go down because the amount of California taxes, and we just sent Christy Smith to go vote on some of these. And I mean, like 2 years ago, they passed the Ladder Safety Act now, and it used to be that, the technicians of our company that go up on letters actually had to be assured against falls, which we all agree people should be insured of. But the state was broke to balance its budget. It didn't want to actually pass a voted act, so it ups the regulation requiring my secretary, my mother, my father, people that don't even use ladders in my company be protected, in quotes, making it so they got to squeeze another $6,900 a quarter out of us, which is about 18 to 20 grand a year. So if my company grows 20% and I'm thinking, oh, this year I'm going to make 10 grand more, I might be able to save for a house, save them for my kids' college fund, so on and so forth. I have watched progressively over the past 9 years, all of that excess that I've been making go to governmental taxes and regulations to such a point that I feel that frustration. I hear your developer friends going through. I just don't have millions to back it up. So I see why we are hemorrhaging businesses. And I worry that if we hemorrhage too much business, we'll reach that 51% point. Your response?
Got one?
Yeah, kind of. Okay, so I mean, I come from a family, I mean, a small business family. And so one of the things that yes, I understand. I hear their frustrations and everything, and I'm not saying that California is a perfect state. And I remember one of the things that Christy Smith even said was, California can't tax itself out of problems. Which, because I mean, you brought up her name, and she's going to be our next assembly member. Is one of the most important things that she is doing is it's called roundtable government, and honestly, that should be what a lot of electeds do. Again, California is a very diverse state. This includes meeting with environmental groups, business groups, medical groups. It takes all, that saying, it takes a village? Well, it takes like the whole state to run its state government. Yeah. And a lot of people are frustrated with state government. I totally understand that, but people need to participate in state government. Your state electeds are not here to just simply solve your problems for you. You are here to echo the voice of your people in the state assembly, in the state senate, and so on. But a lot of the problems that people talk about are issues on a national level, a state level, and it takes a lot of work together across the aisle with different people. And I think that's what people need to begin to learn. Democrats are not evil, Republicans are not evil, Green and other miscellaneous parties are not evil, but they're all people with different ideologies, and we all want the exact same thing: clean water, fresh air, a healthy economy for our future generations to grow up in. But it takes people stop thinking the other side is evil to work together and accomplish those things. And I think that's what's the most important thing that people need to realize about their government. They're not bad people. They're doing the best they can for you, but you need to participate and willingly work together with them.
All right.
Do you have it?
10 seconds. Hit it.
I don't. I'll come back.
No, you're going to come back. You're going to come back. All right. This has been amazing. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Mark. You guys got to follow Andrew Tabon on Twitter. You got to follow Mark if he's even on social media. Nowhere. And come back next week. This is Problem Solver Politics.
KHTS
AM 1220
and 98.1 FM Santa Clarita. It's 8 o'clock. Time for national news on KHTS.
Another Democrat concedes. Trump sounds off. I'm Evan Haining. The midterm elections are finally over in Florida. Democratic Senator Bill Nelson conceded to Republican Rick Scott.
The results we saw on election night, well, the numbers did change dramatically. There's never really any real hope that there were enough votes out there for Bill Nelson to overcome Rick Scott's margin of victory, even through two exhaustive recounts of the 8.5 million votes that were cast here in Florida. You know, after that machine recount, the margin was about 12,000 votes. Then after the hand recount, it went down to 10,000 votes.
Correspondent Ryan Nobles. Well, Scott's victory gives the GOP 52 seats in the 100-member Senate. In Mississippi, Republican Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith and Mike Espy, her Democratic challenger, will compete in the November 27th runoff. On Saturday, Democrats picked up another House seat in Orange County, California, turning that Republican stronghold bright blue. On Fox News Sunday, Chris Wallace asked President Trump why Republicans lost so many House seats in governor's races.
I wasn't on the ballot.
Well, you kept saying.
I said, look at me. I said, look at me.
Pretend I'm on the ballot.
But I have people, and you see the polls, how good they are. I have people that won't vote unless I'm on the ballot, okay? And I wasn't on the ballot.
The president covered a lot of ground in that interview, disparaging retired Admiral Bill McRaven. Trump called the architect of the raid that killed bin Laden a Hillary Clinton fan. And Trump said, wouldn't it have been nice if we got Osama bin Laden a lot sooner? Well, the statewide death toll from California wildfires is 79. Butte County Sheriff Corey Honea, who has the campfire in his backyard, told ABC's This Week the list of those unaccounted for is about 1,300.
This is an unprecedented event, and in the wake of it, there's so much chaos, there's so many people displaced, but I would ask that people make every diligent effort to reach out to their friends and family and let them know they're okay.
I'm Evan Haining.
Indeed knows it's hard to find qualified candidates when you're hiring.
It's